But I also always think, again, if you're going to like lean on like a Sejuani or something, it is completely fine.
Actually, a Lucian for the first pick. Kind of interesting to see the AD carry prioritized over junglers and things on this patch. We've seen a lot of high priority on things like, obviously the Elise is banned, but things like that, things like the Maokai, things like, you mentioned Lee Sin coming in as well. But RNG going with something safe there, and the Draven locked in answer. And you mentioned it already, Xiaohao gets his Lee Sin.
It seems like AL understand we need to get off to a good start. Our hope of winning games is snowballing through the early game, get aggressive picks, and really just push the pace of the game so fast that the enemy can't respond. So I love seeing this. Also, not historically a Betty champion with that Draven either, so the fact that he has that confidence to try to match in that 2v2 is huge, but RNG going to look to respond. The Wukong coming out, we already know this third pick will be that Nami. So setting themselves up to have aggression in the bot lane, strong team fight in jungle, and opening up so you can lean on those AP soul lanes.
Yeah, kind of curious to see how Betty is going to perform in the bottom side against this Lucian army on Draven. Like, we've not seen Betty play it this split. I'll have a look at his Draven stats before we get into the game so we can peruse that, but definitely not a pick that screams Betty to me, like even playstyle-wise.
Especially, I mean, thinking back to the start of Betty's career where a lot of people might forget, Betty started out as a jungler. Betty was the Flash Wolves trainee to replace Karsa for, you know, whenever Karsa inevitably would have left Flash Wolves. And, you know, when they went through turmoil in their AD carry role, Betty swapped over. He was rank 1 on the Korean server at that time when he was still, must have been like 16, 17, working his way up. So, yeah, we're going to see what he's able to do on this one. Lots of bans coming out on both sides so far. For AL, you'd kind of want something that really can enable them.
So I've just had a look at the stats just to see if it was just my brain malfunctioning.
No.
Yeah, no. He's played one game of Draven ever. It was a loss. It's not ideal. He went 1-3-3. Not that I really feel those games' specific stats matter. But yeah, so this is a fresh look for Betty. And like you say, clearly flexible. Wanted to be a jungler before and became quite famous as an AD carry alongside his old Flash Wolves partner here of SwordArt. But it's going to be the Jax locked in here for ZDZ.
Now looking at where RNG want to go for the soul lanes. I mean, if it was 369, you could always bring out something like a Gragas. That's something that has an incredible matchup into that Jax and will be able to do just fine. I guess he can also look to bring out a Jace if he wanted to go down the route of early aggression and just try to play off that range advantage and, you know, set up with the Syndra. You have the culling, which can look to be used to force people off as well. Or if he'll just go with a standard tank, because we do still have things. I mean, you don't really see them in a Jax, so I feel like Jax would be favorable, like the Sion, but you'll still be able to do your job. You'll still set up for the team fight.
You know, historically, when I think of Breathe, I think of like going for a carry, going for something aggressive, trying to win that matchup. But actually this year, his most played are Cassante and Sion with 5 picks each. Like, he really has been relegated into the play safe top side. We're playing Lucian Nami bot role.
Pinzy going to answer with the Galio. I like it because we have aggression on both sides, and that's always the way you want to start off for us morning, for other people, you know, day, evening, whatever it is. Both bot lanes going to want to look for those 2v2s. We know we shouldn't really expect a lot of focus up towards that top side, and even mid laners, both having set up. I'd really like to see Xiaohao get involved there as well. Syndra being that immobile control mage. If you can even just force out a flash early on, it'll open up Pinzy and Xiaohao a lot. Just hover and roam.
There we go. RNG versus anyone's legend. For RNG, another important win on the board for making it to playoffs. For anyone's legend, this is a game where you're trying to stay alive for playoffs. Like, we're getting to the point in the split now where it's possible for teams to start falling out of playoffs contention. Anyone legend 1-8 right now. They need wins if they want to stay in contention.
It's pretty much now as well, because they've played 9 series. They have 8 left. And again, typically you can slide into that 10th spot with 7 wins, but we've even had splits where it is 8, 9 typically is that number that you should feel decently secure about being in playoffs. So if AL could win the rest of the series, that's them. They would be at that magic number of 9.
Yeah.
They do have, I guess, a little bit of wiggle room, but you really don't want to leave it down to...
No.
Because even if you end up on 7 or 8, you're leaving it up to, like, other teams losing or...
This is the last chance they get for playoffs to be in their control.
Yeah.
For them to have control of their own destiny here. 900 total games for RNG. That's quite exciting. That feels like a low number, honestly.
I'm just surprised that that's #1. You know, considering we've had, you know, teams and orgs that have been in the league longer. OMG, EDG, WE.
I guess RNG have most consistently been in playoffs, right? And playoffs adds a lot of games. When you're in best of 5s versus best of 3s, like LGD regularly not making playoffs, WE regularly not making playoffs.
I guess it matters if they count like the Starhorn Royal Club number of season 4.
True.
Because EDG came in season 4, the transition to being Royal Never Give Up didn't come until later. So that would make a bit more sense to me, because EDG is another team that, I mean, right? Even those early days, always going to playoffs.
Yeah. I can imagine that the number is really close. I'd love to see the actual chart of like what the difference is in the top 5, because I bet there's a couple of teams that are extremely close there. But RNG with the most games in the LPL at 900, that's something worth thinking about. Let's talk about this early game though, as we've got both of our junglers pathing down towards this bottom side. Both started on their top buff, now making it towards the, I was going to say bottom lane, but perhaps we have Xiaohao making a play towards the mid lane instead. The ward jump into the brush, finds Sonic Wave, shouldn't be able to get a kill, but at least a bit of damage onto Angel.
Nice damage. We did highlight, right? For AL, mid just feels like such an easy look when you're going up against a Syndra. You don't want to really leave Pinsy in that isolated 1v1 where he will just lose out. Galio will get to a point where you can mostly just try to ignore some of this damage. That's why Xiaohao's going to be looking up for it again.
Flash forced from Angel. Xiaohao, if he can jump to pins, might be able to just find the Q. Angel can't dodge it, slowed up, no flash available, and there's a Justice Punch to sort it all out. Xiaohao with first blood.
Anyone's Legend reading their early game win condition quite well. Wei making his way up.
Waits for the recall to be channeled. Now 1v1 in the jungle, forces Xiaohao away.
Luckily, Xiaohao did manage to get that Skull Crab, so you already see advantage coming out for AL, but I love it. The action just isn't stopping much heavy trading in bot lane, but no flash on the Syndra, so that makes it an easy point to look to punish. Also means Angel shouldn't be able to play as aggressively when Wei isn't around, and will give more opportunities for Xiaohao and Pinsy to lean down towards that bottom lane and put more threat onto Gala and Ming.
Breathe putting some threat up in the top side as well. ZDZ forced to jump away. Both top lane is basically out of mana though, so at this point you wouldn't expect much. But we were talking about the bottom lane. It's nothing to do with the bottom lane. We are all about the mid lane so far this game, as Wei hovering around there. Going to channel his recall in the end. And Ming just wailing away on SwordArt. Stays out of tower range, just getting the damage down as Gala slow pushes the wave.
Gonna get a replay of what happened in mid. Xiaohao doing a nice job to avoid the vision. Angel trying to get the wave pushed in so he isn't under any threat, but it opens up for AL to go for the gank. You force out the flash. And then like you highlighted, if he can get the safeguard off and land the Q, that will just be a guaranteed kill for the side of AL.
Nicely done there. Well set up and well played by Xiaohao. And, you know, we came in saying, this guy's a Lee Sin player. This meta that doesn't have Lee Sin hasn't been suiting him, but feels like maybe this could be the breath of light. I love the aggression and proactivity available from the AL composition. But we are going to slowly but surely get towards that level 6 mark. And I feel like that's where this game really comes alive.
100%. I also want to highlight for AL, right? 1-8. If people weren't following last year, they might look at this roster and be like, yeah, this is expected. This was a team that almost made playoffs in summer. Ox believed in them so much, he put his name on the line. Ended up not panning out, so he did have to wear the panda costume going into playoffs.
And that's why he's not been casting anything this year, because he put his reputation on the line. Nobody values his opinion anymore. It is what it is.
But it was all off the back of believing in the squad, and it is a bit different, right? We had Chocho in bot lane, who I believe now is picked up by FPX. That got announced, and then for having Forge in the mid lane. So there are some differences, but still having a core of players that were part of that almost success, if that's a way to phrase it, from last year.
I will say, as much of a positive storyline that you're trying to say, it does highlight our expectations for AL.
It really does.
This is the positive story.
AL almost made playoffs. Let's go.
There's one time that they almost made playoffs.
Well, there's. I mean, if we count the Rogue Warriors phase, there's more times they've almost made playoffs.
They ain't Rogue Warriors, are they? Gala dodges yet another hook. Gala has been chilling in this lane. Every time we look to the bottom lane, SwordArt's trying to hook him, and Gala, he's not even dodging. It's just SwordArt's trying to predict his movement, and Gala stones of stone, just stands still, just avoids it.
We even see RNG doing a great job of keeping up vision. If you look at the mini-map, not only having River, they have Tri-Brush and they have Dragon. So Xiaohao can't even go for any of those sneaky paths over Dragon Pit or through Tri-Brush to try to wrap around and find the gank. So making sure their bot lane is safe in all circumstances. Doesn't matter how the other lanes are going because they feel confident. Sure, Angel might have died in mid and lost Flash. He'll still be winning in terms of CS. Their top lane is a tank Sion. He's going to do fine. So as long as the vision is all oriented around their bottom side, RNG will be able to at least keep up that consistent source of pressure to have a win condition.
Yeah, should be able to do that and manage to get a plate for themselves, which is not something you usually expected a Lucian Nami lane early on. SwordArt wide on yet another hook. Feel like we need a SwordArt hook counter this game, because so far it's not looking pretty. On what I've seen, he's 0 for 4, which not ideal, not ideal. And I love SwordArt. I'm one of the biggest SwordArt proponents.
He's hit one, but it was the meaningless one where Betty was recalled, and you know we saw Ming walking up to auto.
Oh, true.
He hooked him right next to turret, but
okay, 1 for 5, 1 for 5. We'll take that. It's the little wins.
Hey, that's before it would have been 0%. Now we're at a solid 20.
Yeah. That's a 20% increase on previous estimations.
And look, he just dodged the bubble, so he might be missing skill shots, but also dodging out.
Yeah, I'm ready for this hook. He's waiting for the wave to position itself, but he's gonna go in. Betty's there. Follow up. The ultimate comes out. Bing, bam, bam, ba, boop, boop, boop. It's a kill. Culling denied by the stand aside. Forgot the ability name for a second there. I was going to call it Whirling Death, but that is the ult.
The speed up, fast, runny move.
That's called Blood Rush.
You know, it's funny that, you know, I have to do play-by-play next week and, like, ability names.
Good luck.
But coming back into this, I'm kind of interested to see how these teams approach Rift Herald, because we saw ZDZ get a really nice ward on RNG's Blue Muff, which should give them information to theoretically, you know, play for it, have a better setup going through. We even see Xiaohao getting another ward. But with the fact that RNG's bot lane have been able to keep up pressure in the 2v2, they got to reset first. It means that Ming will be on the map first. So with Xiaohao starting it, I want to see if RNG elect to lean over. But again, the good thing is those wards, AL will know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little curious what RNG are kind of waiting for in this game. It feels like Xiaohao has had his run of the map, right, where he's the one that's having significant pressure in the mid lane. He got the Drake, now he's getting the Herald. RNG, they're all level 6 at this point, aside from maybe Ming. Feels like there's a moment at which this RNG squad will make a move. This is not a team to just do nothing and slowly lose the game. But I'm curious what that moment is going to be that they decide to turn on the proactivity.
You now have, you know, we've had ultimates in mid lane for a little bit, so you know you could look for mid, like sure, Pinzi's Galio a little bit tankier in terms of like having Merc treads and things that could prevent Syndra from finding kills. So having the burst to CC there.
Oh no, breathe. He's been baited in. Uses the ultimate, uses the flash, but actually he was baiting all along as well. Weighs it. And Xiaohao's attempt to use this Herald will be denied. 1 for 6 on SwordArt there. It's Gala. I mean, it's the stylishness with which Gala dodges every single one of these hooks like it's nothing. Every single time he just reads SwordArt.
Yeah, doing a great job of that. I do want to highlight for the top lane play, at least AL not expending anything to where for Breathe did have to use the flash, even the ulti. So definitely a lot more expended by the side of RNG than what AL used in return. We're at a point, though, where, I mean, Sunfire Cape now picked up by Breed, so should have a lot. I mean, he's been doing fine in that lane anyway, even having a bit of a lead, but can have a lot easier time of even just ignoring ZDZ, making sure that wave gets pushed out. And now, once Breed's ulti is up, maybe we can start seeing RNG being the ones to look for more proactive plays, push out the wave quickly, start to hover down towards mid. Dragon's going to be up in a minute 15. That could be a timing where you utilize just how quickly Sion is able to traverse the map with that ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be the moment for RNG to try and find a numbers advantage and turn a play around. The only risk of that is Plate's still up for another couple of minutes. You leave Jax alone for a minute or so there, he is going to get big. He is going to get tasty real fast.
And that's going to be what AL are hoping for, right? If AL can't just snowball this early game home, which they haven't really been able to find a lead, even if they have been the ones finding small wins, you're going to be relying a lot on ZDZ. But we don't care about ZDZ because we have both junglers in the bot lane. Wei and Xiaohao waiting in the wings. Can SwordArt land a hook?
Xiaohao's made it a little bit more obvious what's going on as Gala goes in, tries to base hit, tries to make it look like he's overstepping. But I feel like AL know what's going on here. I feel like AL aren't going to go for the bait on this one. And even if they wanted to, SwordArt wouldn't hit the hook, so... Sorry, that was mean.
That was.
This is just bullying at this point.
Well, jungler's still here.
It's not wrong, though.
You know, it feels even worse that it's real, though.
Yeah, it does.
If it was wrong, that'd be one thing, but Wei really just having
he's
so much patience.
I would go as far as greedy at this point for the play. Like, that's a long time to spend in the brush.
He also does have like a majority of his camps are still up. Xiaohao gonna look for mid once again.
Oh,
great kick!
Oh, the flash kick from Xiaohao. That was gorgeous. Here comes the play from Breathe, though, to answer. Double knock-up into double knock-up. Unfortunately, that's all Sion has to offer.
And that's not the impact we wanted to see it used with. We hit on closer to Dragon. You might see this play coming on through, but Syndra's dead. Your jungler's not leaning over. There's no way for you to answer that play. AL even going to be able to get the Rift Herald charge in mid. Sure, we just saw RNG force Betty and SwordArt off turret and picked up another play, but that's being responded in topside by ZDZ.
Great stuff from Anyone's Legend, honestly. At least there's a Drake for RNG, but it does feel like a consolation prize at this point. I mean, I just want to see the replay. The mechanics from Xiaohao there were absolutely gorgeous, predicting the flash, going for the kick of his own.
Goes for it, starts up, kick into the flash, had the war top as well. Just, you know, so once the flash came out, he could traverse enough distance and really just beautifully put together by him. Xiaohao, Lee Sin aficionado, even with the fact that it only got small buffs coming through, you knew he'd be one of the players to really lean on this pick.
Yeah, big time. And I feel like Xiaohao often had been the target of conversation of, like, Rogue Warriors and their mojo. Like, me and you were big fans of the old Rogue Warriors squad and how they used to play, and I feel like a lot of the time Xiaohao was one of the players towards the end of the Rogue Warriors dynasty.
And shout out to Haro.
Shout out to Haro as well.
I'll always miss him with his... I mean, this, like, core, or, like, whether it was RW or AL, have always just had a knack for picking up these, like, very aggressive junglers who are willing to look for the fights.
Yeah. At least definitely in that pool for Haro. But, yeah, Xiaohao on the Lee Sin. He's got the mechanics. He's certainly got the style. It's just often about, like, when you think about Rogue Warriors previously, like, historically, it's been about, like, they can take the early game to anyone, and sometimes they win those games. This was the team that would take any top team to 3 games, but guaranteed that they will lose that series anyway. Because it always felt like late game, when it came down to team fights, when it came down to objective control, they just didn't have that coordination. But so far today, they're against arguably a top team. I guess that's subjective at the moment with them in the standings, but they're looking fantastic in the early game.
And I will say, like, ever since they become Anyone's Legend, right, I feel like they haven't been as aggro and crazy in the early game, have shored up some of the other areas, but it does feel like more of a decent spread. The thing is, since you're not heavily indexing into any one area, that's where it feels a little hard to, like, find ways. And, like, imagine AL, like, beating teams above them and things like this when you have, like, a better spread in terms of just being a more specialized team. But they're looking for it now. We haven't seen too much action. Even though we've praised AL for the small wins they found, again, I still want to highlight RNG are only 1K gold behind. They are getting Breathe just absolutely huge. So in this team fight, you really aren't going to have anyone who's going to be able to deal consistent DPS and take him down.
Yeah. Also, it's often tough to play Draven in these kinds of situations when you're against, like, a Nami, because not only the bubbles, but the tidal wave as well. Everyone knows where your axes are going to land, so positioning can be really tough, especially with a Wukong in there as well to follow up, a Sion in there to follow up. It is going to be tough when it comes to those team fights for Betty to position, unless there's just major threat. And I think that's where ZDZ comes into the conversation, right? If he can threaten the backline himself, if he can cause enough ruckus among the RNG roster, then it gives Betty the space to play out these fights.
RNG at least having a lot of decent tools to be able to deal with him as long as they have someone marking those flanks. But AL going to use the meantime to look for the Rift Herald. It looks like RNG wanting to contest this one this time around. We see Breathe hovering over, Wei's in the area, and RNG's bot lane going to look to get control of mid first.
So pushing up the mid wave. SwordArt there. Gonna go for Wei. Do we count that one? Hit the clone. I think we'll give him that one. Gala, bit of damage onto Betty. It's kind of traded back though. As a Justice Punch lands onto Gala. And that's a whole bunch of Summoners burn. Nice one from PinZ. SwordArt goes in. The rest of the team is here though. And straight into the meat grinder go AL. The front line is completely obliterated.
And I mean, just so many tools to deal with them. Wei's ulti coming out, Scatter the Weak is there, Tidal Wave. Just if AL are clumped up, RNG have ways to deal with it. Especially coming off of bases where they're hitting those first-sighted power spikes, especially strong on the champions they've drafted. Gale Force Mandate already being picked up, Leandri's on the Syndra. They're really just going to be able to burst out anyone on the side of AL. Like, AL's composition isn't really that tanky. You know, Nautilus support, you're not going to get that many items. You have a Jax up for your top lane. We're going to see here how it goes down. AL wanting to be the one to start this off, but it feels so ambitious by PinZ to get this going. And then clumped up, we see Breathe finding a two-man knockups into the Scatter of the Weak, into the Unleashed Power. There was a Piercing Light on top of it. Just everything dumped onto those two members of AL. And it just shows, like, having to be really conscious about what paths you take, whether it's escape paths, traversing around the map, because RNG have so many ways of starting off fights. Literally everyone except Lucian has a way of making a fight happen, and AL,
and to be honest,
ready for it.
The way that Gala plays, I feel like Lucian almost can't start fights because he'll just Gale Force in. He'll just see the opportunity, go for a pick individually, and like whether it's his CC start the fight or not, or if it's SwordArt's answer to that, it will start a fight. Yeah, definitely plenty of proactivity available for RNG. And we did mention there might be a moment where RNG come alive. It feels like we found that moment. Gala doing exactly what we talked about, trying to find Betty. Forces the heal out there, but answered with his own flash.
Also, ultis exchange, SwordArt and Ming both using those, so not going to be available for the potential incoming fight. RNG threatening Drake, but with AL dropping Herald first, RNG want to come to mid to answer. And yeah, it feels a little bit rush by AL to throw this one on through. I guess they can't know how much RNG committed to the Drake, because if we look at the vision control on bot side river, it is completely lit up for RNG.
Oh, Wei wants to engage. He doesn't just want Drake, he wants a fight as well. ZDZ stunned up, and in goes with the Cyclone. The whole team is pulled in. One down is Xiaohao behind enemy lines, but his team is being picked apart in the meantime. Betty is down, and ZDZ has a stopwatch. Is it enough for him to walk away? PinZ falls in the end.
RNG just doing a great job of cleaning up the members of AL. That even started off as a 4v5. RNG just feeling confident that they have the burst to be able to take the members of AL down because Breathe had to TP in. Now they're going to be able to transition to Dragon. Great job sending Angel to the top lane to make sure that wave gets pushed in, get a bit more pressure, and deny more golden experience from the side of AL. Just doing a great job of taking everything they can off of that winning fight.
Yep, RNG. Like you say, just the vision control so heavily in their favor that AL felt they had to contest.
And Wei, once again, being the one to start it off, finding age one member already down. Breathe comes in off of the TP like we hit on, tries to find another engage in Angel. I mean, I think I saw, maybe it was LPL fan club on someone on Twitter saying that, like, or Rita, someone was joking about how Chinese fans are calling Syndra the ADC dematerializer. Just because, right? You just hit R, they're just gone. We're seeing it right there. I'm sorry that I couldn't appropriately give credit to whoever pointed out what the Chinese community was talking about. Either way, you are an absolute hero.
That is hilarious, though. Honestly, Chinese community has some banger memes. ADC deterializer, I love that. Knock up onto Xiaohao. Oh, it's a great little kick, but it's not good enough. As Gala finishes the kill. And yet another small win for RNG. And this feels like a game of small wins, right? Where they played it super slow. And now they're like, okay, we're strong enough. Time to just win every fight.
Yeah, RNG, it seems like they were fine having the isolated win in the 2v2. They were fine just getting their carries big and strong and waiting for these 5v5s to come online. But Herald being started up, not Herald, I'm sorry, Baron. I wonder if they actually commit to this. They can have a pincer because look at where Breathe is.
Trying to find it, just drifts along to the Baron pit instead. 5k on the Baron. Xiaohao not a part of the fight. SwordArt goes in. Whirling Death is there as well. Ming in trouble and taken down by PinZ. But now the fight turns around. It's RNG's counter punch as AL spread to the wind, scattered. CDZ taking a tower shot there. Wei trying to catch up. Breathe wants to find Pin Z. Does get the slow. Might be able to find a knock-up as well. Is Justice Punch available is the question. Denied by the squad of RNG, and another pick will be found.
So doing nice to pick up 2. They won't be able to turn right back to the Baron, but I mean, they got everything they wanted. Not only did they get 2 kills, which, I mean, to be fair, AL did get 1. They also were able to force out ZDZ's teleport, so not going to have that same amount of side lane pressure. Breeze's TP will also be up relatively soon, so they'll be the ones with more options on the map. But we'll see how it all started out. They wanted to force AL into this moment so they can look for that pincer coming from both sides. Aren't able to get the engage, and SwordArt lands an impactful hook. A lot of ults come out to make sure that Ming goes down. But I'm surprised RNG not able to find this. I guess Angel was too far back to land the Scout of the Week. Wei only able to get a Cyclone onto 1 member, but they at least are able to prolong the fight enough, get the slow coming out on Pin Z to eventually find that 2nd kill.
Yeah. And it does make it into a 2-for-1. It does make it a 4,000 gold lead. But it, at least for AL, denies that opportunity on Baron, right? Xiaohao was picked off. RNG tried to find that window. But still, losing 2 players, not ideal for them. Like the whole course of the play, Wei with a clone at the last possible second there. But over the whole course of the play, it was essentially a 3-for-1, which it's difficult to say that that went in AL's favor at that point.
No, definitely not. And like I said, the big thing to me is the TP, because we already saw ZDZ push up bot wave, and he has to pretty much consistently try to make his way over. Unless RNG are showing in a lane, like they might be doing here, is SwordArt is just gone.
Okay, so if Syndra is the ADC dematerializer, is Lucian the support dematerializer?
I think that's fair to say.
Because he felt pretty dematerialized to me.
We're going to see if AL can do anything to stop this. Again, ZDZ can't really stay in that side lane, so he's made his way up to mid. We can see Breathe did match him. RNG going to take top lane turret. But I feel like RNG at any time can feel comfortable just looking to pivot back to this Baron, especially after that bot wave gets pushed out. Maybe holding up because Drake is up in 1 minute. That would put RNG on soul point. And at this point, RNG being on 2 items, they're pretty much all an item ahead of their counterpart. I guess now ZDZ picking up his Black Cleaver, and we've had Betty on the 2 items for a little bit, but especially mid, Pin Z not exactly there just yet. Xiaohao maybe close to gold in terms of where Wei's at. But I mean, SwordArt not even finishing off his first. It definitely feels like RNG are just going to be continuously favored to win these fights.
Yeah. And SwordArt almost getting dematerialized to get there by Gala. Feels like everywhere SwordArt goes to find vision, RNG know he's coming. RNG know they're already positioned. They're waiting for him to try and face check. And I feel like the rest of AL need to get on board. We need to see a team effort for vision, as opposed to just the solo player here.
Yeah, it just feels like incredibly rough any way they go, because I feel like ideally the way they'd want to find vision is through ZDZ's pressure in the side lane and then someone like walking through that lane and entering river through there, but they haven't really been confident to push out, and RNG have done a great job of putting so much pressure other places on the map that he can't even really look to get that pressure down confidently. As we see RNG keeping up pressure in mid, top lane's in a fine position, bot wave is neutral, and it allows them to not only push mid, but also take Dragon at the same time.
This might be too niche of a question. I don't know how up to date you are on Jax builds, but is Blade of the Rune King still a Jax item? I feel like at this point in the game, AL should just be looking for Jax side lane pressure as their potential win condition, right? I don't know if Black Cleaver is really the split push item.
The big thing for Black Cleaver, right, is it's been buffed like a few patches in a row. Relatively cheap item. It got buffed once again in terms of the stats that it provides. So we're just seeing it more and more as, you know, an easy item to be able to come through early on in the game that gives relatively great stats. So, I mean, I remember people for a long time were even making the argument that we should be seeing it come out more even before the latest string of buffs. So, yeah, maybe for the... But I feel like it's hard because for AL, I feel like even with the rest of their composition, they really needed to be aiming for, right? Yeah. Xiao dives in with Pin Z following up, ZDZ coming off on a flank and setting up for Betty. Even at this point, if he was hard winning sides, it feels like it would still be incredibly hard to be able to fight into what RNG have drafted.
Well, you were right. The jungler is just 200 gold apart. touching distance there. The only role, it feels like, that are really close.
It'll never make, again, I've seen a lot of people like have this discussion on whether it's Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, whatever, about like jungle golden experience. It feels like it doesn't matter who has however many kills or assists or farm, that they're always a touching distance.
Yeah. It's a huge point of contention in the community right now.
Sorry, jungle mains.
Yeah, it do be like that. As it feels like you could kind of just wait in a lane brush for a few hours in the early game and then go back to farming later, and it's still just completely fine.
Yeah. Or, again, one be involved in 8 kills, one be involved in 2, and still really no significant difference is Wei. They're going to look to start with the Baron. Wei being the one to zone off.
Wei's going really deep here, but AL afraid to contest him, afraid to fight it. That was the jungler that's zoning the enemy away from the Baron. That is not the way this usually goes. Tidal Wave used by Ming here. SwordArt flashes for an engage. Angel the target. Oh, Ming, sorry. Caught up and taken down here. Great triple stun from ZDZ. This is the moment for AL. Wei chased out of the fight as well, low on HP. Xiaohao looks for Gala. He's escaping, but SwordArt is there. And Xiaohao flashes over the wall for more. Hooked back in his breathe. I don't know if they actually have the damage to kill this Sion at this point in the game. Surely Betty does, as he legs it under the tower. But AL got the fight!
And it's going to be Baron now. AL, I mean, they're going to be able to close this gold lead. Able to find everything that they were looking for. And now maybe ZDD can start putting real pressure on those sides. Now going to be able to look to play around this Draven more with the pushing lanes that you have. But you can see RNG don't really have any great way of like having people outside of the pit to prevent the entrance, because you need Sion tanking. Wei is the jungler. He needs to be hitting the Baron as well, and it opens up for the hook onto Ming to come out. And ZDZ, beautiful flash onto 3 members. It allows for the others to be able to follow up and just finish off these kills. And ZDZ puts the ward down, just flashes forward to make sure that he can guarantee that Sonic Wave and gets us through. But yeah, the key thing there was, again, who do you really have on the outside of the pit trying to prevent entry if the Baron bait is your play? Sion needs to be the one tanking. Wei, I mean, the one with the smite.
Yeah. And that kill for Betty, I'm pretty sure that was like 600 gold bounty. That was a huge chunk of gold that he got for himself. You see, LDR finish now, and a Noon Quiver on top of it, so he's headed towards a Mythic. This Draven is getting real scary. Wei almost caught there. Will survive for now. The Taunt just about lands, but a good bit of damage down onto the jungler of RNG.
AL using the Baron to just maintain pressure in mid lane with Dragon coming up in a minute. I think it's a good idea, right? Maintain pressure in mid and bot. Try and get into a position where you can really set up some nice wards. And in the meantime, before Drake's up, you can really just use your Lee Sin to try to find those opportunities where you can get a good kickoff. We need to remember he doesn't have flash anymore, so not as mobile, not as threatening as it could have been, but still with access to the ward jump, maybe able to see him find something if any members of RNG extend just a little too far forward.
And it feels tense again. This game had stopped feeling tense. This game had felt like it was RNG playing with their food for a little while. But that big fight around Baron has revitalized the match for anyone's legend. For 20 seconds until Infernal Soul for RNG if they can get it.
Setting up still far. We see AF still the ones in control of River, but when you have a Sion, at least it isn't too big of a deal to just send Breathe into face check to be able to clear out these wards.
Yeah.
Flash is still up on both AD carries, but Angel with no flash is someone who can be incredibly vulnerable. A lot of it's been down to, honestly, supports overstepping, right? Whether it's like Ming, who we saw just get caught on the previous play, or SwordArt a lot of the times being the one too far forward and landing a hook that he necessarily doesn't want to land. So we're looking at Ming and SwordArt.
Look how unafraid Breathe is. I mean, we saw it in the previous fight, how hard he is to kill for anyone's legend. But with the LDR finish for Betty this time, there is damage available there. Angel zoning ZDZ on the backside as into the pit. Go RNG. Dragon resetting for a second there. 4K on the health bar. AL don't want to give this one up. It might come down to a smite fight here. Are you serious? He gets it. That's soul taken for RNG. Anyone's legend. I mean, can you even fight at this point? Pinzy chased down by Gala. A 1-for-0 with Soul. In fact, SwordArt died in the midst of all of that too. As Xiaohao falls, a double for Gala, and Betty being corralled, being pushed into a hole. 3 for Gala in the fight, and I think that might just be it.
And you could see that AL just looked so pressured and didn't really know what to do because they're hitting Dragon in that situation where it's like, hey, RNG are the ones who benefit off of you turning this into a 50-50. They just need one. They just need one Drake. How do you pick that up or not for AL? It really wouldn't have meant too much for you other than the fact that it is a denial. And now, I mean, Gala's pushed up. He's going to have a wave. I don't know how confident they are looking to try to pressure an inhibitor turret with death timer so low. And it looks like, yeah, just going to go for resets at the end of the day.
Yeah, they can reset. They can, you know, set up for a future push. But ultimately, with Soul...
Look at the gold lead. It exploded again.
Yeah, I just...
Okay, the weird thing to me is the fact that AL were the ones hitting this straight the whole time to even get it in this situation. And RNG benefit from this play. SwordArt looks like in the meantime ended up getting caught out. Angel able to take him down. And then leaving AL in this position now, I mean, having to deal with the damage from the Infernal Soul. They're scattered and separated from the way that this play panned out, to where Pinzi is able to get taken down. And then RNG just able to run home with it. For AL, I feel like you just need to be more willing and more confident to try to force an engage, even if it wasn't the ideal one, which is hard, because then you're setting up in a situation where RNG theoretically still win the team fight if you aren't landing a hook onto, you know, Angel who didn't have flash, or onto Ming walking too far forward. But I think at the very least, trying to get out of that extended standoff in front of an objective that RNG are kind of happy if you're the one setting up the coin flip.
Yeah, oh, Gala with the culling. Big damage onto ZDZ, but can't finish the job. But now with Infernal Soul, they can very easily finish these towers off. They have so much damage. Betty just getting dived by Gala. Basically two shots. SwordArt next on the chopping block. And chop he will be. That doesn't make sense, but ZDZ with the 5-man stun. Gala surviving regardless as Angel gets the kill. No, Pinzi shuts him down. 1,000 gold is the consolation prize, as it's Angel with a double kill now. And whether Gala lives or not, Lyric, I think that is game.
Yeah, RNG, 4 members strong, going to be able to push the base down. They gave a little panic, they added some tension to the game, but it still ends the way that honestly, on paper, you would have expected.
Yeah, and now potentially a Nexus dive. This felt like a confident game for RNG. Even with the shenanigans that occurred around Baron, like, I feel like those shenanigans were based on RNG overconfidence, as opposed to...
I don't know if overconfidence is like the right word, but it does feel like, it feels more to me like they wasted some time rather than that play itself was an overconfident one, because the Baron bait, in theory, it's like, hey, a couple minutes ago, you guys forced ZDZ's TP, and that's when they stopped going for the Baron bait. And then they re-go for it, you know, after 4 or 5 minutes, he now has it back up. And it's like, okay, again, if you were looking for this play because you were so far ahead to find an explosive team fight, I don't know why they didn't use that window, whereas ZDZ can't TP in and find, what was it, a 4-man stun in the fight that AL won?
3-man stun, yeah.
So, yeah, it felt a little bit weird, and like how RNG were utilizing that time as compared to, I guess, the play itself.
Yeah. And, yeah, a game of highs and lows for anyone's legend, right? And for RNG, where we have these huge explosive team fights, like that massive one around Baron for anyone's legend, the fact that they're keeping the early game so close and managing to go toe-to-toe, like the ganks early on from Xiaohao looking fantastic. But in the big picture, anyone's legend didn't feel like they knew how to play this one out. Like, it felt like RNG were in control of the macro beyond sort of 20 minutes.
It never looked like there was a plan of like, hey, we get this kill and we can like turn it into this and move it this way, which, to be fair, right, AL never found an overwhelming opening, but even things like, you know, you force, like, let's even ignore the kill, you force him just flash early. This now opens up for either more repeat ganks, or more times we're just leaning Xiaohao over, showing him in mid, allows him to push out the wave, and now he can start leaning bot, and Gala now can't take these turret plates like we're seeing. We didn't even see any of that. We didn't really see any link up or cohesion between the lanes or the advantages that they got.
Yeah. Bit of a tough one for anyone's legend, but RNG, a solid game overall. Again, like, not a perfect game, definitely not perfect, but in the grand scheme of things, I think you'll take that. And looking towards game number 2 now, I'm curious how AL are going to approach this, like what they're going to change. Like, do you take this Draven for the bottom lane when it didn't feel like they could win that 2v2? It didn't feel like that. I mean, as I'm saying about the bottom lanes winning, I think we can see which bottom lane won. Gala with 40,000 damage. I mean, That is absurd. Even like that's not even like a compositional thing. That is an absurd amount of damage.
No, and it even shows like in one of the earlier fights that we highlighted where Breathe got like the ultimate on the 2 members and the Cyclone followed up. The thing that looked like it did the most damage in that fight was just like the piercing light that came through from Gala, even with everyone else throwing everything out. So Gala, huge performance. This is why RNG weren't stressed even when ganks were going off in the mid lane, even when Jax was still on a free farm up in top side, because they're like, hey, our bot lane's in an isolated 2v2. We're keeping up vision around it, and they are doing incredibly well. They had faith that Gala would be able to take over this one, and take over this one, he did.
Yeah. One thing that you can't say is that Gala ain't a good AD carry, because his movement is so clean. His damage is insane. This guy continuing to have an incredible